And then I've also started studying hypnosis and self-hypnosis. So there's elements of that I incorporate into my classes, where I place people through the yoga practice into an altered state of mind that allows them to approach something and overcome their fears. So really, now this experience, this Yoga and Surf Society, and these sessions that we do every Saturday, they've sort of morphed into something more than just a yoga class or a beginner surf lesson, but into an ability to be able to really challenge yourself and challenge your fears in a place that is safe, with someone that is there right next to you, so you don't have to be alone as you go through that. And you don't have to make the mistakes that I made when I was trying to teach myself how to surf at the beginning.
It sounds almost like a parallel to what they call in the school of psychology exposure therapy.
Yes.
Where, yeah, you've heard of it, right? So
Yes.
it's like that's kind of like it sounds really similar to that, where
Yes.
you're trying to really just get them to expose themselves to that fear in a safe setting
Yes.
with their buddies, so it feels like you're kind of like, you're in it
Yeah.
together, and it's not just you alone with that fear of a spider or whatever it may be.
I love that you mentioned that. I was exposed to the idea of exposure therapy when I was in high school. Growing up, I was incredibly unathletic. I was the kid that never got picked for sports or got picked last. I was the kid that had so many fears: fears of public speaking, fears of socializing, fears of bugs and animals and this. And I had a fear of heights that it was so bad that in high school, if we would go to the mall, the movie theater was on the 3rd floor or the 4th floor, and it was one of those glass elevators,
Yeah.
and I would have to take the stairs.
No
And
way.
because I was so afraid of getting in the glass elevator, and all my buddies would make fun of me all the time because of that. And I read about exposure therapy, and I've incorporated that into every element of my life. And one of the things that I said to myself, and I said to my best friend at the time, was, dude, I do not want to graduate high school still being afraid of heights. So I went skydiving for the first time when I was 18, and it changed my life. And then my life from that moment on became, how many other things am I afraid of? And,
Really? So
and I leaned
skydiving,
into
you
that.
think was like the thing that started it? That
It was the thing that started because it was the first time that I had just so drastically confronted something that I've been afraid of, and then finding myself on the other side of that, of just loving it and becoming obsessed with skydiving, which is one of the things that I want to do this year, is get my Type A license so I can jump without having to jump tandem. But yeah, man, it led me down this path of realizing that, wow, all the things that I'm afraid of, these themselves are not obstacles. These are opportunities. These are like, this is the path has been laid out for me to follow. What else am I afraid of? And that led to like backcountry snowboarding in Italy, and that led to yoga and public speaking. That led to these daily meditation videos that I do. That led to starting this yoga school, and then making this investment on a business coach, or making an investment on my yoga retreat. All of these things have been things that have terrified me, and they still terrify me. But now my relationship with that fear has completely shifted. And with the Yoga and Surf Society, I have so many people that say that, like, man, I love to surf. It looks so much fun, but I'm so scared of the ocean. And to that I say, great. So grateful that you're here. You came to the perfect place, because that is my jam. My jam is to get people that are so terrified to do whatever, and to show them that there's actually something on the other side for them, that they're not they're afraid of it.
no, but
Shark. Yeah, man. He might be a friend.
no, but I really like how you talk about how you faced this one huge fear in your life, and that led to like this momentum, the snowball effect of conquering other fears, and it just changed your life. And I think everyone needs to have this moment where they really pinpoint a really strong fear that's been controlling them and really preventing them and it becoming an obstacle for a lot of things in their life. And once they conquer that first initial hurdle of that fear, they realize how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Once you conquer it. Because my skydiving moment was public speaking.
Yeah.
So my greatest fear, like out of heights, out of anything, out of any insect, out of any like animal, person, whoever, it was legit just public speaking. It was so bad to a point where when I was like very, very young in elementary school, if I knew that they were doing like, taking turns reading a certain paragraph in the book and I was going to be next, I would literally say I need to go to the restroom at that point. So I was trying to find like a sly way to escape because I was like, I
Yeah.
do not want to read out loud because I'm going to fumble the words and I'm going to screw it
Yeah.
up. I couldn't even read like in that setting, just sitting down. So
Wow.
when I joined the speech and debate team, I just got thrown right into it. Like I just didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I was freaking out. Like I just remember my heart was racing. They were telling me to give a speech and like you got to read this out loud in front of the class and blah blah blah. And I just remember thinking that like I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. I just kept telling myself that. And then it ended. I'm like, I'm not dead. I'm
Here I
like,
am.
well, that kind of felt good. Like I just like got over it. And then it was just like, okay, it wasn't perfect. But then I'm like, well, no one else's was perfect either. And then I was just like, all right, so this whole speech and debate team, like legit, everyone was on the same boat. Like they did not know how to speak. People were scared. People were nervous. So like,
Yeah.
it's okay to be scared because
Yeah.
everyone else is scared. But I think finding the bravery to get through it and initially is very hard, but it's actually really rewarding because you start to realize what fear is.
Yeah.
And I write this in my book that if you really want to conquer fear, you have to first become it, right? But when you become it, you're able to not only face it, but you're able to utilize it as an ability. Because people will
Yes.
say to face your fear, right? But you don't want to just run from your demon and turn around and look at the demon. You want to face it and you want to analyze why that demon, because that demon ultimately is a
Yes.
reflection of you, why that demon is separate from you. And you want to look at it and become it. You want to integrate that demon, that fear into you
Yeah.
and utilize it as an ability. And I think public speaking is such like a great example of becoming that fear because once you realize that you're trying to run away from public speaking and you face it and you
Yeah.
become it, public speaking becomes it becomes a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Just like the whole metaphorical story of Batman, which I reference a lot.
Yeah.
It's him becoming his fear of bats.
Yes.
And by becoming his fear of bats, he's able to channel that and utilize it against his enemies.
Yeah.
So against your enemies of corruption or politics or whatever the enemy is that you're trying to use your public speaking for.
Yeah.
Maybe it's persuasion. Maybe it's just like a relationship. Maybe it's really a mellow type of battle that you're having.
Yeah.
It can really be a useful tool for you for the rest of your life. And I think once you realize like how powerful your fears are when they're on your side, when they're integrated into you, you start to realize like, all right, I need to find out what else I'm afraid of. If I'm afraid of dying in the ocean with sharks, maybe I should jump in the ocean and get eaten by a shark.
Yeah. Become shark man.
I'm just kidding. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, totally, man. No, I think what we resist persists. And if we're always resisting our fears, it's always going to persist that. And what I love about your philosophy and what I love about your book and what you're sharing is exactly that, man. That like these things that feel like obstacles, these things that feel like hindrances, they are actually your greatest source of strength. And your superpower lies in becoming that. Not just facing it for the sake of facing it, but facing it because it has secondary and tertiary effects in your life. Because if you are afraid of the sharks and you do go out to the water or you go scuba diving with sharks and you see what it's like to be in front of this majestic creature and then you walk out of there like, wow, I am still alive. Everything else, what else am I afraid of? Then you start realizing that that is the path for you to follow. That is the thing to go into because there we become unstoppable, like in the confrontation of those things.
Yeah.
I have so many maxims and quotes and things from teachers throughout my life. But one of them is this idea that whatever you're afraid of controls you. If I'm afraid of X, Y, or Z, that thing, the idea of that, I'm either like running away from it or I'm avoiding it. But then I will never confront that, you know?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then now there's this huge section of reality that I'm not even willing to interact with. So again, what does it look like to really to have courage? And courage is not the absence of fear. It is the showing up to the fear. You know, it is the embracing of that fear fully and then the taking action despite the fear being present. And all of the greatest strides I've made in my life, all of the greatest accomplishments, the most fulfilling, the highest peaks, the greatest experiences that I've had in my life, I have all of the one thread that ties them all together is this exactly that. It was something that I was deeply afraid of, or it was something that made me deeply uncomfortable and something that I was able to face And then I was able to sort of like alchemize it into this incredible source of strength for myself. And to end this little rant, when we do that, why is it important to do that, right? Why is it important to face your fears? Not just for the sake of power, not just for the sake of these gifts, but when we do these things and we step into these spaces, we give other people around us permission to do the same. So back to this idea of like we're creating reality with our minds. And there is a co-creation that is happening in this matrix that we live in, where if I live in a world where I am willing to step into the things that make me uncomfortable and the things that I'm afraid of, then every single person around me benefits. Every single person gets to see what it looks like to do that, and then now they get to step into that space as well. And what does it look like for us to create tribes and communities and groups that are deeply committed to that, deeply committed to facing everything that they're afraid of? You know, an army that is not afraid is an army that's unstoppable. And I think that's what's called for in the modern age. You know, what we talked about earlier, warriors of Shambhala, fighting for a heaven that already exists, that's already here. A nation that is outside of borders, or a nation that is outside of ideas or institutions, but it is just the deep human desire to flourish and to live in a world that is free of unnecessary suffering.
For sure.
Let's go swim with some sharks whenever we get a chance.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Gabe. I appreciate you coming on this channel, and yeah, hope to see you soon.
Yeah.